everybody, and thank you for tuning in to ChasingCinema.com's official podcast, where each week myself and my co-host sit down and talk about the world of motion picture. If this is the first time listening, thank you for joining us for the first time. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes. So each week, every Monday, our podcast is immediately delivered to your iTunes. That way you could put it on your iPad, your iPod, your iPhone, your Android phone, or your HTC, whatever phone device you listen to podcasts on. Or if you are not the iTunes type, you could always find our podcasts at youtube.com/chasingcinema. And since you are listening to the first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Jacob Toronto. I am joined by my loyal, faithful co-host / best friend,
Louis Corzo.
And today is quite a special day because it is not an ordinary podcast. So if this is the first time you're listening to us, it's going to be a little bit different. And if it's not your first time, thank you for coming back to sit down for the conversation again. Today is a special day. It's probably our most popular podcast of the year, as Louis and I take place in this daily or yearly event. This will be the third annual Chasing Cinema Choice Awards, where Louis and I have created our own set of categories, or maybe knocked off categories we've seen on some other lists. I ain't gonna lie. And
we can all use the help.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you just got to take good ideas. But hey, we're in that business. So, and we pick our nominees and our winners. So this is where we will actually reveal our favorite movie of the year. This is where we will share who we think was best actor, best actress, so on and so forth. So what's going to happen is Louis and I have, I don't know how many categories, but quite a few. We should keep a number. I want to say it's a little bit over 25,
24.
Right?
Yeah, 24, 25.
Some are some really cool ones, very different ones that we really are proud of, such as Best Chemistry or Loudest Cry or Best Moment, which is one of my favorites, actually, where we actually have like the best moment in a movie. We also have we have one new category this year that's I've heard through many different podcasts and saw on a few different lists, but I think it is a very important category because I think it happens to people a lot. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I present the third annual Chasing Cinema Choice Awards. Let us begin. Louis, what is the first category of the evening?
The first category of the evening is Worst Film of 2014.
Now, I don't know about you, Louis, but I love this category because usually I can't fit all 5 nominations. Oh, that's another thing. Every category has 5 nominations except Best Picture, which gets 10.
Unlike the Oscars, we stick to 10 per year.
Yeah, we never
matter what.
nominate 10. Because there's always a film that deserves some spot.
That's probably my most proudest moment of this award. It's like, yeah, we get 10. No matter what it is, what type of film, we're going to find 10 films that we think are the best of the year.
I think Best Moment is probably the coolest thing that we do because
that is
it literally kind of sums up the year in that one single moment.
Mm-hmm.
Worst Film. I can never have enough nominees for this movie. I crossed out a few, just like last year, just trying to figure out which one were worse than the others. Louis, let's hear your nominees.
Okay, my nominees are Transformers: Age of Extinction, A Million Ways to Die in the West, 300: Rise of an Empire, The Awkward Moment, and I, Frankenstein.
We have some recurring ones. My nominees are Transformers: Age of Extinction, The Other Woman, That Awkward Moment, and Ouija. I did leave I, Frankenstein off the list, which was originally on there, but I think the other films I mentioned are much, much worse. The winner of Worst Film in my category is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When you make a movie that insultingly bad, I have no choice but to give you this very, very unprestigious award. That movie, to me, was just awful. I hated it. I don't understand what they were doing, and I'm sad to say that I'm sure we'll be seeing more than just one sequel.
Lucky for you.
No, you're covering in the new one.
Okay, we got ourselves a deal. Maybe it could be a recurring winner in these awards. For me, My winner of the worst film is one that came out early in 2014, but stayed with me throughout the year in a very, very bad way, and that is I, Frankenstein. I do not want to revisit that film at all. It was painfully experienced. I can't describe how much dreadfulness we experienced in that theater, Jacob, and it's just something I would not like to relive again.
I don't blame you. That was quite a bad movie, but when I look at it, I find it less offensive than The Other Woman and that awkward moment. You know, I walked out of that awkward moment being a fume leaving my ears, so you can't even imagine how much I despise Teenage Ninja Turtles. Moving forward, so worst film goes to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I, Frankenstein. Next, we have a category that I also really enjoy. I'm not going to lie, I love all of these categories. That is Biggest Letdown, which basically, as the title claims, is the movies that let us down. Not box office letdowns, not, it's just movies that Louis and I were firstly excited to see at one point of the year, and then we're highly disappointed by the movie. Doesn't mean it's a terrible movie, just means that our hype was not met. Louis, what are your nominees?
My nominees are Exodus, Gods and Kings, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Transcendence, Sex Tape, and The Interview.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were still reading your worst film categories. My biggest letdown was also The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Unbroken, Get On Up, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and Into the Woods. My winner for biggest letdown, even though Amazing Spider-Man I was excited for, and Get On Up was one that I was super excited for, and I was really looking forward to be awesome, these films weren't necessarily the worst things I've seen. Where Into the Woods, I wanted to see it so bad, I was so excited for it, and it just turned out awful. Into the Woods takes home my category for biggest letdown. Louis, what won yours?
One of the most anticipated films for me of last year had to be Ridley Scott's Exodus, Gods of Kings, and unfortunately it was the biggest letdown for me. It was such a wasted movie, a wasted topic, a wasted performance from Kristen Bale. Having Aaron Paul in it and only showing up here and there was another major disappointment. It was a misfire on all accounts.
Yeah, that movie, but then again, I wasn't going in that movie with much expectation, so, but I could definitely see how that was the biggest letdown. Louis, why don't you take over and tell us what our next category is?
The next category is something that we all can appreciate in very different ways, and it doesn't get a lot of attention for the most part. And you and I
are huge fans.
Big fans of this, and it's the best trailers of the year. Now, to be included in this category, we only took trailers for the films released in 2014. So if there's no Star Wars on this list, that's because it did not get released. Yes, it did not get released in 2014. We're keeping it.
If that wasn't the rule,
it'd be interesting.
If that wasn't the rule, would have Star Wars or Age of Ultron made your list?
Star Wars definitely.
Age of Ultron would have made mine.
So there we go.
I love that damn trailer.
It was a good
strings on me.
James Spader.
All right. And my nominees for best trailer. And for those of you who really don't follow trailers necessarily to a huge degree, you might not notice that multiple trailers there's multiple trailers per movie. Most of them are numbered. However, sometimes numbers get confused, especially online and stuff. But you could YouTube these and hopefully find the ones we're talking about. My nominees are Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the very first trailer. This is the one where he goes, "I need to speak to Caesar." Foxcatcher, the Cannes Film Festival trailer. The very first look that people got from that film. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the second trailer, which is highly way more intense than the first. And that's the one where he talks about go where, and just all that stuff. Great trailer. Gone Girl #2 trailer and the Nightcrawler teaser trailer. Louis, what are your nominees?
My nominees also include the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes teaser 1 trailer,
Okay.
Inherent Vice, the first trailer that got released for that one, American Sniper, the first teaser, Nightcrawler, also the first teaser, and Foxcatcher, the Kane's edition as well. And for me, the winner is American Sniper. No trailer, I thought, this year captured as much anxiety and high tense stakes as that trailer. When the moment I laid eyes on that, my heart nearly stopped. I was transfixed. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh, I got to see this. And I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful trailer for that movie.
I have to agree, and I'm surprised that I didn't mention that, but there were some films there were trailers that I vividly remembered, and I had to go back on that. My winner is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, trailer number 2, when, a lot of emotion goes to that trailer. You see a lot of Caesar, who I think is one of the, the reason that this franchise has become so successful, played by Andy Serkis, incredible. But it's an amazing trailer. The music behind it, the dialogue that's used, very, very powerful. You get to hear some Gary Oldman. You get to hear some Andy Serkis. So, very powerful stuff.
Yeah, they had a great, great run of trailers for that film.
Moving on, we have Most Likable Character, which basically is a category that Louis and I choose who we think is the most likable character that we see on film. My categories are... It's one of those years where a lot of things are based on true stories. A lot of characters are inspiring, and they're not necessarily characters as much as real people. So it is a bit tough. But if I looked at them as just movie characters, it would still be as if we were looking at the people in real life, pretty much. My most liked characters are Stephen Hawking from Theory of Everything, Jane Hawking from Theory of Everything, Caesar from The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Coretta King from Selma, Dr. Martin Luther King's wife, and Louis Bloom from Nightcrawler. And I know how sick that sounds, but...
That sounds very sick.
There's something so... there's that thing where you look at him and you just go, man, this poor guy just doesn't even know. But I digress.
That's great. My nominees are Ethan Hawke for Boyhood, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Imitation Game, Jaden Lieberher for St. Vincent, Groot, played by Vin Diesel for Guardians of the Galaxy, and Emily Blunt for Edge of Tomorrow.
Wow, that is actually a really good category. Most of those I would not have guessed to be on your list, so quite surprising. Oh, that is another thing. Louis and I do not share our lists beforehand.
Yes.
This is the first time we are hearing them. Louis, who won Most Likable Character in your category?
This was a tough decision because I think it was coming down to 2, but in the end, I had to give it to Benedict Cumberbatch, Alan Turing, for his amazing portrayal of this genius who in many ways could have been made like a Jesse Eisenberg character in Social Network, very off-putting, very cold and distant, but they made him so much more human in this portrayal, and then you just wanted to give him a hug and it's okay, come on, you're gonna get this. And for those reasons, that's why I had to give it to him.
My most likable character is the character I think that had the most influence on me, the one that touched me the most, a character that I didn't know much about, obviously before seeing the movie, which kind of gives it away that it's a real-life person, but huge influence on me, and really has probably the biggest heart. Well, again, I'm going off character here. Again, this is not speaking for real people, but probably the biggest heart I've seen in a movie in quite some time. That's actually Jane Hawking from The Theory of Everything. We'll talk more about a few of these movies, I'm sure, again, when we get to performances. Mm-hmm. We have next the use of song, which is one of Louis' favorite categories.
Yes.
that we created, and it's not best song as much as the best use of a song, where it's placed, how it's placed, when it's used, and that is that category where we kind of just emphasize in certain songs rather than just what's the best song from a movie. My categories are Everything Is Awesome in the very beginning of the Lego Movie, because if you want to get someone hooked in a movie, you got to get them hooked in the song. And you want to talk about marketing. You had so many people going out there singing that song after that movie. It's hard not to like that song and like the placement of it. And it's literally in the majority of the movie. Hooked on a Feeling in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think one of the coolest openings from any movie this year is just watching Chris Pratt just pounce around in this near danger situation, listening to this song and just enjoying his Walkman as he's just kind of jumping around right before a big dangerous moment. Glory in Selma. And though I said, best use of song, this song is at the very tail end of the movie. It is at the credits. But it's the lyrics of the song that actually kind of really bring the movie full circle. That kind of really make this, that it's basically the bow on top of the box. And though it's not necessarily used to heighten a scene, once you're watching the credits and you hear this song, again, it kind of brings everything full circle, and it really kind of says, well, this is what this movie is about, but let's look at how it's relevant to today. And I think that's why that song works so much. My last song is Creep from The Book of Life. One of our main characters plays Creep as he is unsure of himself and doubtful in his path. So another great use of that song. And it's a great song because it's this kid's movie where most of these kids have no idea about that song, and all of a sudden our cartoon character is just busts out that song, and adults get got a big laugh out of that movie. Or that part. Louis, what do you think were the best uses of song?
For me, they were Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce, and that could be found in the Quicksilver scene in X-Men Days of Future Past when he's using his quickness. Great use of the song, great use of an introduction for this character. It was just spot on in so many different ways. I also believed in the opening sequence for Guardians of the Galaxy with Hooked on a Feeling was phenomenal. Something so different from other Marvel films, and it's a great way to say, okay, this is what we're doing with this franchise. Another nominee for mine is found in The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and it's The Hanging Tree, sung by Jennifer Lawrence. I thought this was
Are you?
Exactly.
I forgot that song, actually. That's a good song.
A very catchy song, and it's well placed in the film. Probably my most memorable part of the film. Jennifer Lawrence shows off another beautiful talent of hers, and it definitely gets the film going. You finally feel, okay, enough is enough. Let's stick it to President Snowden. Let's move on. Another one, which I recently just watched, but it was just amazing, and it's in the Skeleton Twins, and it's Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, who plays long-lost kind of twins, lip-singing Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Jefferson Starship.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. That song's great. Just saying.
It's a great song, and it's performed wonderfully by Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig. If you're fans of them, you need to see this film, and you need to see this scene because it's just perfect. It's SNL all over again with them too. Great.
Unfortunately, I did not see that movie, and it's a damn shame. And again, guys, and if you do follow the show, don't be mad that we don't mention maybe your favorite movie, because unfortunately there still were films that Louis and I didn't get to see, and we watch a lot. Trust me, we watch a ton, and there are still films we don't unfortunately get the opportunity to see. So, don't be too upset that we didn't get to make these movies, but keep in mind that we didn't get to see everything. So this is from what we saw. Yes.
And my last nominee is a song by Neil Young called Journey Through the Past, and it takes place in Inherent Vice, and it's a flashback sequence between Doc Sporello and his ex-girlfriend.
And the winner of your category is
Inherent Vice. Using that song from Neil Young and setting it to a flashback where Doc Sporello feels so much emotion and so much nostalgic for for that moment in time, for that girlfriend, for that particular day, fills you so much emotion. It's great. It's great. It's a great use of the song, great use of filming. It's a beautiful sequence, and as you watching it, you kind of get sad and depressed because you want to experience that too. It's beautifully well done.
My award has to also go, which took home Best Song at the Academy Awards, and I thought was one of the best parts of that Academy Awards show that was not that entertaining, unfortunately, and that was Glory from Selma. That song really, really kind of makes that movie apparent and really, really connects the dots for those who might not, I'm not saying that people aren't able to make the connection of why Selma is so important right now, but it's really like, okay, here's why. And a really great explanation, and kind of really talks about the struggles from both now and then. And I just think perfectly captures the emotion of that movie. And really, you could hear that song and that's just flooded with the emotion and frustration and beauty. And it, to me, has been the most effective song this year.
A great song. The next category keeps up with the musical theme of the night, and we're talking about the best score and soundtrack of the year. And we kind of combine these two. It doesn't have to be necessarily just a soundtrack or just a score, whatever the Jake or I really connected to.
Yeah.
So Jake, what are your nominees?
My nominees are 4 scores and 7 years ago. 4 scores and 1 soundtrack. That was an Abraham Lincoln quote, man.
Yeah, I know, but I wasn't expecting any Abraham Lincoln quotes.
Any political reference?
No.
My categories are Clint Mansell for Noah, Hans Zimmer for Interstellar, Alexander Desplat for Imitation Game, Johan Johannesson for Theory of Everything, and soundtrack is no surprise to anyone, I don't believe, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Couldn't agree more. And that leads into my nominees. I also have Guardians of the Galaxy, a great mixture of 70s tunes. I have Inherent Vice, its score and soundtrack, because PTA uses great use of it. I have the soundtrack for Boyhood, which I thought was phenomenal. I have Clint Mansell's score for Noah, and the soundtrack of Top 5, which, it's no wonder that Questlove was the musical supervisor for that film, and there were so many great tunes provided in the film. Let me just take it here, and for me, the winner is Inherent Vice. Paul Thomas Anderson has always done great wonders with period pieces. Boogie Nights had great music. There Will Be Blood has a beautiful score, and in this film, he kind of combined both elements. There was great songs throughout, including the last category I just mentioned, Neil Young, but also the score by Johnny Greenwood, who was also a guitarist for Radiohead. It was amazing. Like you thought this, like the beat, it kept playing the score over and over throughout the picture, and you just felt right in the 70s. You thought this was a song from the 70s, and when I found out it was actually a present day score, it blew my mind. Great score and soundtrack. Definitely check it out.
One of the great things about a score is that it has to able to enhance a story. It has to be there with kind of out being there sometimes and help moving along the picture. And it also, music is key. And I think a lot of people forget that, how important this music is and how well it could actually really break or make a movie. You could watch a very sad scene without any music and it doesn't have that same emotional connection. You could have a scary movie, as Louis could tell you, without the music on, and it's just not the same. So for me, though subtle, the score for Theory of Everything by Johan Johansson was one of the most powerful scores in the sense that it was beautiful, touching, and yet never too overpowering. But some really beautiful moments that made that movie so much more emotionally inviting. And it's not one that people will always. I mean, it was nominated for an Academy Award, as well as the Imitation Game was. And as well as popular the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack is, there was something so powerful about the Theory of Everything score that helped make that movie that much better. So moving on, another cool category of ours is actually the most overlooked categories, and that is two: is most overlooked picture and most overlooked performance. And performance, you want to do first, Louis?
Let's go with performance.
All right. The most overlooked performance in my category. I wrote it in the wrong spot, so give me a second. Is and obviously most overlooked performance means the performance that me and Louis find that were really, really spectacular and worth noting, but unfortunately did not get any credit or any praises we believe that they should have. Most overlooked performance, I put Shia LaBeouf for Fury, David Oyelowo for Selma, and though his name was somewhat mentioned, his name was obviously kind of left off this year in most of the talk. We have Miyavi, the Japanese rock star who was in Unbroken, and I thought was the best part and probably the only good part about that movie. And not many people have talked about him. I actually thought he was way more charismatic and interesting, even though he was technically the antagonist in the film, and only in it for a short period of time. I thought he was the best part about that movie. We have Miles Teller for Whiplash, and Essie Davis for The Babadook.
Ooh.
Louis, who was the most overlooked performances nominees for yourself?
My nominees include Miles Teller for Whiplash. Excuse me on the pronunciation for this, at least for the first name. Ellis Gable, A Most Violent Year. He plays a young immigrant in the film. Channing Tatum for Foxcatcher. I think he got criminally overlooked when talking about the film. Bill Hader for Skeleton Twins, and Kristen Wiig also for Skeleton Twins. And for me, my winner is Channing Tatum for Foxcatcher. I thought he gave absolutely a stunning performance, definitely his best of the year, of his career, and one that was so spot on, so damaged, so pained, so much emotion in his performance that really made the film work. I know we credit Mark Ruffalo and Steve Carell, and rightfully so, but I think without Channing Tatum, Foxcatcher would be so much worse. It's a fine, good performance by Channing Tatum.
Agreed. I was surprised how much.
Anything I mentioned at all, too.
Yeah, I'm surprised how little he was mentioned and praised for that movie, because though I would say he's probably his performance is probably the least, I don't want to say impactful, but least notable in those movies, and I'm not saying by much either. He definitely gives an amazing performance, and it just kind of just happens to be outshined by two better performances, but it's equally a great performance. I really, really recommend people take another look at his performance, because I saw some reviews and people weren't such a big fan of him. But if you really look back at his performance, I mean, he does an incredibly powerful job at just holding things in. He makes it so visual to see him holding things in, and that's quite a talent.
Absolutely. The best moments of his performance was definitely when it's just like him and you try to read what is this man thinking.
Yeah.
And there's some scenes where he just looks in the mirror and he looks disgusted. He looks hurt. And then, there's one scene in particular when he starts hitting himself.
Yep.
And that was so powerful.
Even in the beginning of the film, we're just kind of going home with him, watching his everyday life. You could just
how
tell
he
there's
walks.
So much. Yeah, exactly. He carries his emotion. However, my best, let's see, put it in the wrong place. My most overlooked performance actually goes to Essie Davis for The Babadook. The reason why this movie is one of the greatest horror movies I've seen in such time, and I promise you I'll be talking more about this movie in a little bit, is that it's more than just a horror movie with cheap characters that are supposed to be killed off. It's actually a really emotional story about a mother and a son who lost the little boy lost his father. This woman lost her husband. It's really about her struggle and trying to just go through life emotionally destroyed and suffering so much grief. But it's all, again, she's holding it in, just similar to Channing Tatum. The way she walks, the way she acts, the way she looks, you could just tell her emotions sit on her shoulders, and she could barely stand no more. And I mean, amazing performance. I'm surprised she didn't get nominated. That's how powerful it was. Even though it's an Australian film, and it was a much lower budget movie, she was that amazing.
And that's one film you said you definitely love and want me to check out,
Yes.
which I am planning on it.
But you're terrified.
I've improved a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I have
But
improved
this movie
a lot.
creeped me out. It
Yes.
scared me, so.
So you never know.
Now we have also most overlooked picture, which basically highlights films that we think that were just kind of overlooked in general over the year that we thought are actually quite spectacular. My nominees are Life Itself, the documentary that follows Roger Ebert, Blue Ruin, The Book of Life, The Homesman, and Big Eyes. Blue Ruin, most of you should remember that Josh Bell talked about this movie quite some time ago, and we talked about it again when he was back on the podcast, and he talked about his top 10. The Book of Life, the animated movie that just didn't get enough credit. Homesman, which is another smaller movie that not many people got to see, and Big Eyes, which was I called Tim Burton's revival. Louis, what were your nominees?
My nominees include The Immigrant, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Marion Cotillard. And with those names, you think it would have got bigger recognition. Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and directed by Denis Villeneuve, who followed Prisoners with this. Skeleton Twins, as mentioned before in the podcast. Love is Strange, a beautiful love story that definitely came and went. And I also included The Homesman, which was a very good film that, again, not many people took notice to.
No, and it was a lot of people call it very somber. A good friend of ours, Michael Smith, was not a fan of it, and this is one of the few movies that me and him did not just see eye to eye on, because I actually really enjoyed this movie. I thought it had a lot of it's hard to say heart, but it does have this kind of intense emotion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Louis, what won your most overlooked picture?
For me, it's Enemy. It has to be Enemy for a couple of reasons. It's probably, if more people would see this film, it would definitely be the most talked about film of the year. There's a big twist at the end, a big reveal at the end that left a lot of people who've seen it, many people who saw it, scratching their head. What did I just see? Why is this happening? So that kind of, the ending definitely stays with you. In the year where Jake Gyllenhaal had a great performance in Nightcrawler, his performance in Enemy is equally as good and could be some of his best performances of his career. He plays two identical doppelgangers, so he's playing two characters in one film, both great.
I have to watch that.
Yeah, and this is Denis Villeneuve, who killed Prisoners, who came on in such a big way in Prisoners. Everyone loved Prisoners. And then he followed Prisoners with this, so you think, okay, here we go, here's his momentum. He got Jake Gyllenhaal again. He did great with Prisoners, but this came and went, and that's kind of disappointing. It's a film that would make you have discussions about it. And what's film without discussions?
Yeah, and that movie is out now.
Yes.
I think it's on Prime and Netflix, and I have to watch it on one of those. I'll have to watch it on Prime. My winner, I think, is more than just a most overlooked picture, but more of an overlooked, again, revival of a career. Not that I dislike Tim Burton, but I feel like the man has been set in his ways for too long, and I really wanted him to make a movie that had the same emotion that his earlier films did, such as Ed Wood, and Edward Scissorhands, Beetle. Just a feeling that wasn't felt like so copycat and so repetitive, and that was Big Eyes. I thought Big Eyes was also, I love that movie beyond words. I think it was a really overlooked movie, obviously. Christoph Waltz was great. Amy Adams was great. The story was just awesome and very engaging. And the whole movie looked lovely. There was a lot of hidden themes in the movie about being a woman and finding your own voice, and just kind of the idealistic suburbia mindset. Really, really powerful stuff. I highly recommend this movie. It's a shame more people didn't see it, because I want Tim Burton to be influenced to keep doing things like this rather than going on and making another Alice in Wonderland or Charlie and Chocolate Factory, which I caught the end of the other day, and my God, that movie is awful. So yeah, Big Eyes easily for me though. Easily an overlooked movie that deserves a lot more credit than it got.
And then for the next category is a new category that you just introduced to me
Today.
hours ago.
Hours before we got to the game, yes. And it is called What Did We Miss? And this is a category that basically is an exploration of movies that did very well critically, or mostly critically, not financially. Because there are a lot of movies that do well financially that obviously no one gets. That did well and people praised that Louis and I just didn't get. We saw the movies. We were just like, okay, I don't understand why this movie is so praised. I don't get it. So what did we miss? My nominations are The Box Trolls, Inherent Vice, Captain America the Winter Soldier, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and A Most Violent Year. I don't think the Grand Budapest Hotel is shocking for anyone who knows me or has listened to this podcast before. I unfortunately just do not understand the profoundness people see in the Wes Anderson films. I'm not saying I don't respect his techniques, but they just do not translate to me. It's like a foreign language. And I like foreign movies, but that's not a foreign movie even I understand. The Box Trolls I thought was greatly looking, but unfortunately really lacked in story. Inherent Vice was a movie that I thought had good parts, but just didn't connect in my mind enough for me to be like, oh, I liked it and appreciated it. Captain America Winter Soldier was like one of everyone's favorite Marvel movies, and that movie just totally went over my head in the sense that I just didn't really think it was that special. I thought the action sequences were great, but other than that, I was not mesmerized by that movie. I thought it was easily forgettable. And The Most Violent Year, which was the high talks of the town, just did not work for me at all. I actually thought it was quite lacking of interest. Louis, what are yours?
And I guess not surprising, maybe surprising, we do share similar nominees. Mine include A Most Violent Year as well. The Grand Budapest Hotel. You know, I kind of feel bad for Wes Anderson in the sense that, you know, we just don't understand like what he's trying to do, and maybe we don't appreciate it as much. And we keep saying this over and over again. Like, I like the guy, you know, I appreciate what he does, but again, you know, we're not his targeted audience. And I feel like for people listening, man, they rip on Wes Anderson all the time. I don't want to. He seems cool. He seems like a cool guy, but, you know, I've yet to really, 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 really enjoy a film of his.
See, I liked one of his movies. I really, really enjoyed The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
So I have yet to see that.
I'm
afraid. I'm afraid.
No, that one's good. But then again, I don't know, because you're not crazy about animation in the first place.
No.
He just listens to us every week, just wonders if we're going to talk about him. I don't mean to even it sound backhanded. Like, I really do respect his technique. It's just his technique's not for me. It doesn't translate to me. And I wish it did, because a man's talented, but it doesn't. And for me, there's no benefit of watching his movies emotionally or any sort. I don't get it. So
agreed. Moving on. Boyhood.
What?
Boyhood.
What?
The Lego Movie.
Oh my goodness! How do you not get the Lego Movie?
I just think that's criminally overrated.
You're out of your mind.
I agree with the Oscar voters.
Lego Movie was incredible, but I honestly could see you not getting it because your inner child is dead.
No. The best part was Will Arnett's Batman.
Yeah, it was the best
without that film, I could care less. And moving on, Captain America 2. Again, if I wanted to watch a 70s political thriller, I'm going to watch a 70s political thriller. I don't need that in my superhero Marvel movies. Thank you very much, Captain America. And for me, the film that I didn't get this year, that film that I missed, has to be Boyhood. I think Boyhood is the most overrated film of the year. I didn't particularly enjoy it that much, besides a couple scenes here and there. And you might see me repeat Boyhood in later categories, which is crazy, but I just something that I didn't get. I liked it, but I didn't love it like everyone else did. It has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. No way should Boyhood have 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. And that angers me. And I think if you take out the 12-year span and just make it like any other filmmaker would make a movie about a kid growing up, people would say, oh, it's whatever.
See, I don't know.
But because of the 12 years, I think people are crazy about it.
I don't know. First of all right, because I've had this conversation quite often. So should we wait to have it or should we have it now? And we'll talk about it right now. I don't think, first of all, that's true. Because Boyhood really, really beautifully articulates the feeling of growing up again.
I don't think so. I get
and also, I could say that about any movie. Like, the fact that people attack him and claim that his fame is because he shot over 12 years, I could be like, well, Birdman's only good because it looks like it was shot in 2 or 3 shots.
See, the one take shot like signifies the cinematography of the film. Birdman could still make a film about the craziness of Michael Keaton's character and still be pretty successful. I'm just saying and
Boyhood
it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick.
No,
the 12 years is a gimmick.
But every movie has a gimmick. But Boyhood could tell a story without the 12 years being and really articulate growing up and actually going through these emotional changes of just growing up and going on with your life. And I think Richard Linklater could do that. But yeah, 12 years is somewhat of a gimmick, but at the same time, it's also it even shows you how well he's techniqued and being able to keep that consistency over that amount of time.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the 12 years. Don't get me wrong.
But I think every movie has that quote unquote gimmick that they sell itself on.
I didn't like any of the characters. The only character I liked was really Ethan Hawke's character. The kid got annoying. The mom definitely got annoying.
Of course, he's a kid. He's going to get annoying. Kids get annoying.
As he got older. Stay 5, my friend. Please, do me a favor.
As kids get older, they get annoying.
It was anticlimactic. I was not invested in the characters. I wanted to be over. It was way too long, way too boring, too...
I think that life in general isn't as climactic.
Yeah, but that's life.
Yeah, Boyhood is equivalent to what a normal life is. Boyhood,
that's pompous.
No,
that's so pompous. Because I want to watch a movie. I want somebody to take me out of my regular life. I don't need to watch. Oh, this is what the average American family goes through. No, I don't need to see that. And plus, the whole thing about the mom sleeping with the professor. Then he's a drunk, and then she becomes a professor, and guess what? She sleeps with her student, and then he becomes a drunk. Is laughable.
No, okay.
And the characters were laughable. The first husband was a joke. I was laughing when I was like,
tell me you don't know someone who's just like that, because I can name 3. And I've had friends' parents who's like that. I've seen households like that. And the thing is, I have to hold on. I let you speak. Mm-hmm. So to argue on the fact that movies are supposed to take you out, that's true. But also to a point, we've come a point into film where people like watching real people. We like seeing that. I mean, that started a long time ago. We've seen that as early as The Bicycle Thieves, where we just start following regular people, average on the street, not particular places that take us out of normal life. Boyhood is able to give us that experience in a short amount of time of actually, like I said, I literally felt the feeling of growing up again because that Eller Coltrane is fairly close to us in age. I think that to say that, it just felt annoying. I mean, I don't feel that movie felt annoying. I felt that it was frustrating at times because that's how life is. It's frustrating. I never felt it was too over the top. And I bought the fact that she did go from drunk to drunk because in most cases, people do that. People go through bad relationship to bad relationship. I felt that movie really signified. Sure they do. Yeah, I felt that movie really signified real life very well.
But there were caricatures, not characters.
I don't think so, but okay.
I definitely believe so. And if you want to watch a movie about growing up and feeling growing up again, pop in Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 because Toy Story does a better job than Boyhood.
But Toy Story does it in a different sense. Like
it still does a better job.
Nah, see, I don't feel like it does. I feel Toy Story does a better job. I feel Toy Story does a different story than Boyhood, and Boyhood literally has the emotion and literally takes you that experience. See, I totally disagree. There's some beautiful emotions in that movie. The
best emotions come from Ethan Hawke and his character. When Ethan Hawke is not on screen, the movie suffers drastically.
That's true because I think one of the best parts of the film, and I'm sure we'll be talking about more later, is actually when Coltrane goes to college, and he actually just says goodbye to his mom, and his mom realizes that the time that we've spent with these characters has kind of just slipped by.
See,
And
I thought that scene was very contrived.
I
didn't like this scene. I did not like this scene.
I don't feel that was contrived, and I think that it's very much like Tokyo Story, where you spend all this time with this character, and you know there are certain scenes that don't seem to have a major impact or have a real major purpose, and then by the time that the movie actually goes on and moves on and ends, you just kind of feel like you've unappreciated a certain amount of time with these characters. As does Patricia Arquette, she's always doing something else, and we don't really get to see her spend so much time with her kids. And when it's time for them to go, you see that regret in her face, and I think that's very realistic.
Please let them go. I was happy to see them go.
Well,
the only smart character in the film was Ethan Hawke for knowing to get out of that situation. He was the only smart character.
Oh, man, I think that movie. Unfortunately, I wish I had more examples. But I saw that movie when it first came out here, which was early in the year. So I haven't been able to rewatch it since it came out on Blu-ray DVD. But I
did not connect.
I think that we have to revisit this together. Well, we'll move on in a second, but I think we need to revisit this movie.
Oh no!
And again,
2 hours and 45 minutes. I won't get back.
All right, moving on because we are running a little bit, but this podcast is always kind of long. Best death. I have and this is spoilers technically. I'm giving you guys a head up before we move on. This is technically kind of a spoilers category, so if you haven't seen anything, if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy, Fury, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Gone Girl, or Edge of Tomorrow, then I warn you now that these are spoilers. My best deaths are the Fury crew from Fury, Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, Stoic from How to Train Your Dragon 2, Neil Patrick Harris in Gone Girl, and Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow. And there's multiple. All right, Lee, what are your best death categories or nominees?
Once again, we have some similar nominees. My nominees also include Neil Patrick Harris, seen in Gone Girl. I have Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy. I have Tom Cruise getting repeatedly killed in Edge of Tomorrow, which was a brilliant gag throughout the film.
Absolutely.
I have Godzilla killing his nemesis Muto in Godzilla with the lightning breath, which was amazing.
Yeah, I remember you really liked that.
And I also have, and this is another big spoiler, like we said, cameraman Rick in Nightcrawler. Having Jake Gyllenhaal's Loom Bloom real Rick in was this, oh my god, and then the sound of the gun made me jump.
Yeah, Rick was a very close call for me too, but I thought that the other ones gave me a little bit more emotion, even though the death of Rick really helps tell the story of Louis Bloom. Yes. My winner, I'm going to take a limb out and probably say, actually, I think it probably will be the same as Louis. Maybe
I would hope so.
I don't think it is, actually. No, it probably is. The best death of the year obviously has to go to the man that died so many times in 2014. That is Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow.
What? What? The biggest upset of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on.
Really?
I mean, those deaths were so entertaining. And then watching him I thought that whole aspect of it was so powerful. I mean, they were funny at times. They were gross at times. They were just frustrating at times. I think
they were great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
I can't ignore that. And man died at least 12 times, and I can't discredit him for that.
The best part was when he was rolling out and got hit by a car, the first time, and the sergeant was like, "What?"
He's like, ugh.
Like, why did he just do that?
It got to the point where they wouldn't even show you him dying, and it was still entertaining.
Yeah,
that was great.
Very entertaining.
I think I know what you chose, but go on.
I think I'd be remiss not to choose this because, come on, there's only one death scene that really stuck with me, and that's the poor Neil Patrick Harris's character, and again killed by Rosamund Pike's character, Amy. Wow, yeah. What a scene!
It is. It really is.
Visually stunning scene. And then just her reaction, and as Neil Patrick Harris is bleeding out, and she's getting soaked in blood, and her hair gets in her face, and she kind of just moves her hair, just oh, no big deal. She's more angry that her hair got in her face and she's covered in blood. And that tells you something about the character. It's a phenomenal scene.
Yeah,
it really
it
is.
really is. But there's something about just watching a man die that many times. I had to give it to me. The next category is Best Showdown. Best Showdown deals with the best showdowns in a movie, which could be physical fights, emotional fights of some sort, or just overall two characters opposing each other and wanting the others to be stopped. In other words. My categories are Captain America versus the Winter Soldier. As I mentioned earlier, the best part about this movie was the fight scenes between them. Very, very vivid and incredible and detailed and so well choreographed. Amy versus Nick Dunn in Gone Girl. The battle of the sexes that doesn't necessarily take place in one moment, but overall in a film. Cooper versus Dr. Mann in Interstellar. I thought was one of the coolest and actually pretty funny fights of the year. Just the whole confession of Matt Damon during that sequence in Interstellar, of him being like, "I'm sorry," and then like the point where he's like just hitting his helmet on the thing. I thought it was a good fight, very memorable.
Matt Damon.
Probably my favorite part about that whole movie. Apes versus humans in the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I think everyone remembers that charging scene where the apes are on horses just charging the humans' area, and they're going through fire, and there's tanks and so on and so forth. And then there is Fletcher and Andrew in the movie Whiplash. Student and teacher, the master versus the student, as been told in many films, many situations, and it's never lost its touch. Louis, what are your categories for Best Showdown? Or Best Nominees? Why do I keep saying that? Best nominees for Best Showdown.
Best nominees include the epic fight between Godzilla and Muto in Godzilla. And this how they filmed that was just very funny. In parts, it's kind of led up to the whole film when at first you only saw them fighting on television screens, and you really didn't appreciate it until the final battle, which was great. The final battle in the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, when it's a full-out war, civil war, if you will, and finally we get to see Caesar.
You're saying as a whole, or are you saying Caesar versus Koba?
Well, you could
just categorize the whole thing, yeah.
You could broadly put Caesar versus Koba, but particularly that epic scene when you thought Caesar was down and out and he comes back, and just the whole epic conclusion of that. Okay. Then I have in Whiplash, of course, it's mentor versus student, but in particularly when they were having the drum off between the three potential drummers, and they stayed there throughout the whole night, bleeding, sweating, and J.K. Simmons' teacher was not pleased with what they were presenting him. Then I have a very funny moment, might get overlooked, in Birdman between Michael Keaton and Edward Norton. They are having a disagreement, and Michael Keaton wanted to prove that he can outact Edward Norton's character, and he did just that, and they got in a fight, and then he says, "Let's fight," and fisticuffs ensued. And then my last nominee is the big prison escape scene in Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that was wonderfully crafted. It's the first time of all of them working together as a unit, and to have them figure stuff out and eventually escape was just a pure blast.
The winner for Best Showdown in my category really highlights the power of two forces. An unstoppable force meets an immovable object, just two opposing forces, and that's Fletcher and Andrew in Whiplash. I mean, they clash like titans, and I just think it's beautiful chemistry, and easily a movie we're not going to stop talking about anytime soon. But amazing showdown between those two.
And for me, I also pick Whiplash as the winner of this category. The fights that ensue in Whiplash are amazing, and the scene of dedication, blood, sweat, and tears into something that you want to be great at, with someone that says it's never just good enough. It's this amazing battle.
Yeah, well, but again, I'm sure we
could talk about this. Yes.
The next category is Best Villain. Who was the best villain in these movies of 2014? Louis, what are your nominees?
My nominees are Rosamund Pike for her chilling performance, J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, Michael Fassbender in X-Men: Days of Future Past, and Koba, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And besides, if you take away Michael Fassbender and Koba, surprisingly this year most of the villains were just regular human beings, and that's that I appreciated that this year compared to years past.
And Koba.
Oh, Koba, I guess it's just a regular animal.
No, I don't think he's a regular animal. He can speak.
You never know, Jake.
Ape, follow Koba now. Best villains for me also are actually going to be tied with Louis, except for one. I also have Fletcher, played by J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, Louis Bloom from Nightcrawler, Koba from The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, or Amy, is it Dunn? It's Dunn, right? Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, and the Babadook in The Babadook. The winner for me, hands down, actually was really tough this category, but I felt that one character was technically more a villain than another character, and that's going to go to Mr. Louis Bloom in Nightcrawler. An incredible villain who is manipulative, deceptive, charismatic, but also very, very disturbed, but very subtly disturbed. And what besides Babadook, I thought was the greatest horror movie of the year, and that is Nightcrawler.
For me, I'm going slightly different in this direction, even though I love Louis Bloom and he is downright nasty. I think someone is a little bit maybe nastier, and that is Amy Dunn. Rosamund Pike, Amy Dunn. Oh, you got done. You messed. You know what? You messed me up.
That's why.
Exodus, Exodius. You messed me up in the past.
I know. I'm sorry.
Dunn, Amy Dunn. It's just a chilling performance, and it's a scary performance at that. You have to watch it, man. It's insane.
I think it also has to do with the fact that it's just filled with manipulation. The fact that it's just a mind.
It really is a mind.
Game.
You know what?
Yeah.
Throughout the whole picture, she plays with your emotions, and by the end, you just despise her. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Going in the different category from sick and twisted to laughable and enjoyable, we have the biggest laugh, which Louis and I highlight our favorite comedy moments of the year. I have the reveal of the human walrus from Tusk, Garfield from Neighbors. If you need a little bit of explanation, it is a scene when a cop meets a character named Garfield and he makes him quote Garfield. I was dying in theater. Everyone else was just kind of looking at me.
The cop was great.
Yeah, he was great. The plan in Horrible Bosses 2, when our characters have the beautiful, intense looking idea plan that we see executed, and then when they actually do execute the plan, that scene is just absolutely hilarious how things go awry. My name's Yep in 22 Jump Street. I thought, is Louis great. Just said is hilarious. It's a great.
I forgot about that.
It's commonly been used in Vines and YouTube, and I still laugh.
I still quote that today, actually.
Name's Yep, and then we have Horrible Bosses 2, stopping for the train, which I thought was a very subtle moment, but to me, all it takes is just a little subtle moment when our characters don't want to exactly lose the police. And once they cross the stream before the police do, they just sit there and wait and enjoy Twizzlers together. I thought that scene was hilarious.
For me, my nominees are... Now, again, we're talking about spoilers here, especially if you haven't seen Top 5. My first nominee is in Top 5, and it's when Chris Rock gets thrown into jail and he meets DMX in jail. And I know Jake hasn't seen this, so I won't explain what else happens yet. But it's pure brilliance in what happens. It's amazing. I also have 22 Jump Street, but the scene I highlighted was when Ice Cube meets his daughter's boyfriend, and that's Jonah Hill, and his reaction.
Oh
and the
my
whole
god,
buffet
that is a really funny scene. Yeah,
was hilarious.
I can't forget that. Yeah.
Next, I have Horrible Bosses 2, and I could put a lot of scenes, but I do agree with Jake. The whole sequence when they're planning this elaborate plan and what they were planning to do, and they feel so good about it, and then what we see actually happen, it's like, what? No, it's great. Anything with them is great. They have great chemistry, the group of people. I also have a very fabulous scene in Inherent Vice that takes place in an elaborate, quote-unquote, dentist office, if you will, and you see a coked-up Martin Short there. And if you just need any clarification, it's cocaine and Martin Short. What's funnier than that? Nothing. And my last nominee also takes place in top 5, and that's when Chris Rock is his character is at a strip club, and he's met by some old friends, including Whoopi Goldberg, Jerry Seinfeld, and Adam Sandler, which is his best performance on film in years.
That just sounds like a big joke. I mean, those 3 walking to a strip club.
His character is like having a bachelor party, and it's his close friends.
Gotcha. I have to see that movie so bad.
It's amazing.
I was telling Louie that I revisited Never Scared, Chris Rock stand-up, and it's great, and I'm really looking forward to watching that movie. I just wish I would have saw it sooner. The biggest laugh for me was, again, the simplest, and that was just waiting for the train in Horrible Bosses 2. The fact they just sat there, and these cops are all worried about getting there, and they're just sitting there, and they talk about Twizzlers, and they share Twizzlers. Jamie Foxx is hilarious in that movie. I mean, he really is. It's just great. I was rolling in the theater. Literally almost fell out of my chair. Louis, what one biggest laugh for you?
For me, this is tough. This really is tough because it comes down to 2, and they both take place in top 5. But I think I have to give the DMX jail scene the slightest of edges just because it just fits in with the overall picture and what Chris Rock was trying to do with it. I'm going to ruin it for you, Jake. I'm sorry, but... In this scene, the jail scene, DMX reveals to Chris Rock that he's going to stop rapping and he's going to pursue a career in music. And he starts singing "Smile" by Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
And it's just terrible. It is bad. And the look on Chris Rock's face is like, what's happening? I need to leave. No, it's priceless.
That sounds awesome. Again, hopefully I'll watch top 5 by next time we meet on the podcast. Cause that's just great. I'm a big fan of DMX's music.
Yeah, we do like DMX, and it's this, we haven't seen or heard of DMX in a while, and just have him pop up and start singing "Smile." And early in the film, Chris Rock does talk about Charlie Chaplin. So this, he has respect for comedy. It's all about comedy in this film, and it's just great.
Moving on now, what else you do in the theater besides laughing? You cry. And that is one of my also favorite categories, and that is the loudest cry, which is the moments that Louis and I cried the most and or just hit us the most emotionally. Louis, what were the loudest cry nominees for yourself?
For me, again, spoilers if you haven't seen these films.
Yeah, spoilers.
We apologize. First nominee is in St. Vincent towards the end when Bill Murray's character Vincent gets nominated to be a modern day saint in the Catholic school, and it was just emotional and powerful. Great scene. The ending of Still Alice. I think one of the best parts of Interstellar was the emotional performance by Matthew McConaughey when he saw the 20 years of messages that all of his time on Earth has passed by, and he missed his kids growing up. And Matthew McConaughey was perfect in that scene. A lot of scenes could be identified with Theory of Everything that makes us cry. One of them has to be Felicity Jones teaching Stephen Hawking's the learning board again, and upset the ALS as a disease and trying to overcome it. Very powerful stuff. And my other nominee is the end of The Imitation Game, when we get to see why the machine is called what it is called, and why it means so much for him.
The Imitation Game is a very emotional movie. Unfortunately, did not make my category in this time, but these I think were the more a little bit closer moments or exact moments that really, really got me emotional, and I remember crying very vividly. And one of them is also the learning board in Theory of Everything. The watching a man's kind of just pride just kind of destroyed, and the emotion that he goes through and trying to realize that he may never speak again is very, very just tough to watch. And watching him kind of deteriorate physically is very, very hard to watch. The death of Jamie Lee Jackson in Selma An incredible emotional scene, but not so much as if the death is so much as when they reveal his grandfather that the boy is dead. I mean, it's a very, very sad scene. This boy's grandfather, honestly, gave one of the, I think, like best minute performance ever. I mean, it was so powerful, so emotional. I was seriously in tears, and I was in tears for all of these. I don't know about Louis because Louis doesn't cry very often, but I cried in every single one of these. The death of Alan Turing actually did make my list. And just watching his kind of deterioration toward the end of his life, when Keira Knightley sees him, and that same scene when Louis mentioned, revealing why Christopher is named Christopher, and then honestly, the hardest part for me was reading the text afterwards. That was, I think, the most gut wrenching part of the whole entire thing. Also have the death of Stoic in How to Train Your Dragon 2. The moment that Hiccup's best friend, his dragon, Toothless, is under a spell and kills Stoic, his father who takes a bullet for him essentially. And in the history of Viking funerals, his father's put on a ship, and he has to shoot a flaming arrow to burn the ship and basically cremate his father. I mean, if that doesn't sound emotional to you, I don't know what does. I mean, that scene was beautiful, especially in the sense that Hiccup will eventually later face Toothless and forgive him, though he was in control. I mean, it's still a very emotional scene. Lastly, the scene between Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones in Theory of Everything, where after learning of his disease, Stephen Hawking stops contacting Jane Hawking and kind of leaves her, and she kind of goes and finally finds him and says, what are you doing? Why are you abandoning me? And in this scene, Stephen Hawking essentially pushes her away and tells her, I want you to go, get out of here, we're done. And he starts lying to her, and she just replies, no, she's not going to leave. And I think that was honestly one of the most incredibly emotional scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's the reason why it won my loudest cry. I already kind of gave it away, so I just decided to go on with it. I mean, for someone to kind of really stand by like that's really beautiful. And the fact that he was so dead set on her leaving and she just replied that simple no. It was really emotional, I think, when just a very, very cry-worthy scene. Louis, what won your loudest cry?
My loudest cry has to be the ending of Still Alice, which was so emotional just because we finally see the full deterioration of Julianne Moore's character, Alice. She's half the person, not more than half gone, but she's like completely gone, and it's just almost like waiting for her to pass on. And the only character that's taking care of her at that point is the one that you thought was the most irresponsible. And it's a beautiful performance by Kristen Stewart, a great performance by Julianne Moore, and they come together, and you still see that maybe, through all that's good and bad, if you can identify love, there's still a part of you left. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, her performance in that movie was, incredible. And obviously, I'm sure we're going to talk about more of that later, but it's a very emotional movie, especially if, it's an easy movie to connect to. It's a movie that, if you know someone that suffered a similar circumstance, it hits home quite hard, but very, very
definitely did.
Tough movie also. But moving on, we're going to get to the more traditional categories, and that is going to be the best visual effects or best special effects. My categories for those is the Lego Movie, X-Men: Days of Future Past, Interstellar, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Louis, what are your nominees?
For me, my nominees are X-Men: Days of Future Past, Guardians of the Galaxy, Edge of Tomorrow, Noah, and Interstellar. And for me, let me just go. And for me, I think the obvious winner has to be Interstellar. What Christopher Nolan, his company, and his crew did and created was just a whole new universe, and made many people more become more fans of bringing these universes first on-screen adventures, and God knows how many future filmmakers are sitting in audiences amazed by what's been done with Interstellar.
It's great as Interstellar's visuals were. There was a movie to me that just amazed me even more, and that was honestly Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, as I said, I couldn't see the difference in moments between real and fake, and that to me is incredible. I mean, mind-blowing. And though Christopher Nolan did it on a much grander stage, the detail and texture and everything that came out of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is something that I cannot get out of my head. Moving on, we have Best Editing, which is a category also that is given a lot of credit for having to connect to Best Picture, though that has not been the case the past couple of years, at least the Academy Awards. Neither has it been our case here at the Chasing Cinema Choice Awards. So, Louis, what were your nominees for Best Editing?
My nominees include John Gilroy for Nightcrawler, Leslie Jones for Inherent Vice, Douglas Creese and Stephen Morone for Birdman, Tom Cross for Whiplash, and you know what? I'm a fair man. Even though I might not have been too big of a fan, I could admit when something's good, and that's Sandra Adair for Boyhood. The transitions from age 5 to age 7 was very fluid. You couldn't tell years passed. So I give her much credit.
My nominations are the William Goldenberg for The Imitation Game, Spencer Averick for Selma, Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman, Sandra Adair for Boyhood, and Tom Cross for Whiplash. To me, I think that it's kind of hard not to imagine how hard it would be to edit down a 12-year movie. I think that Selma is one of the best paced films as far as editing and being able to tell things in large leaps, but in very close minutes. However, to me, rewatching the movie, especially very recently, Whiplash deserved the award when it took home the Academy Awards, because that is also my choice for Best Editing. I mean, it is put together so well, and when we need to look at another character, I mean, it's perfectly there, and there's just so many great uses of editing in this movie that help tell the story so much better.
Yeah, this was a difficult category for me because I was debating two people in particularly, and you definitely named one of them, and the other one actually went on to win, and that's John Gilroy for Nightcrawler. I thought that was another well put together film that has you on your edge of your seat through every turn, every move he makes. It keeps getting tighter and fast-paced. And this, what won it for me was revisiting the car chase throughout Los Angeles. And that was extremely well edited and probably one of the best car chases you will see on film. And for that, I think John Gilroy takes it by the slightest of edges.
Moving on, we have Best Cinematography. And my categories for this is... Benoit Bellhorn for The Theory of Everything, Jeff Cronenworth for Gone Girl, Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman, Lucas Gazal and Razard Lenkazawiski for Ida, and Robert Elsmith for Nightcrawler. Louis, what are your nominees?
I also have Jeff Cronenworth, Robert Elswit, but for Inherent Vice, he also did Inherent Vice, and that was amazing. Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman, Hoyt van Hoytma for Interstellar, and Craig Fraser for Foxcatcher. And for me, it's hard to argue this. I have to go with Emmanuel Lubezki. The achievement in Birdman was spectacular. You cannot. Instead of focusing on the characters and the action, he also focused on the movement of the camera, and it was extremely well crafted, very artistic, very beautiful, and it's no surprise that this master did it again this year.
I completely agree, as that is also my choice for the win, Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman, which gives us the beautiful... I mean, honestly, Birdman was the most awesome-looking movie of the year. I mean, the technique that was used, the feeling of it being, a few shots and constantly following in this very small dwelling and this very small, old theater, it really brings it to life. So,
it's
easily.
hard to argue that.
Yeah. Next, we have Best Supporting Actor and Actress. Louis, why don't you read your nominees for Best Supporting Actress?
Best Supporting Actress nominees for me include Carrie Coon for Gone Girl, Emma Stone for Birdman, Keira Knightley for The Intimidation Game, another surprise, Patricia Arquette for Boyhood, and Rene Russo for Nightcrawler.
Sorry, my dog's barking. I mute the mic real quick. Interesting. I have Keira Knightley for The Imitation Game, Emma Stone for Birdman, Patricia Arquette for Boyhood, so very similar to the Academy Awards in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Rene Russo for Nightcrawler.
Hey.
And Carrie Coon for Gone Girl.
Oh, look at that.
So, it's
pretty
funny.
wild.
Yeah, it is. And again, we really don't read these to each other.
Yeah.
But to me, even though Louis seems like he has quite distaste for my winner, who is, I think, really, really amazing at taking over that the motherly figure and being a woman that portrays a woman that I've seen in real life. That I've seen that person before, and I think she portrays it very well. I think the motherhood that she portrays in that movie is so real and so honest. And I think if you actually pretend to be someone's mother for 12 years, you might as well. I mean, it's very much like it, and it's very real. And I think I could sense that, especially looking at the scene when she says goodbye as he goes to college. That would be the reason why the Best Supporting Actress award for my choice award goes to Patricia Arquette.
I saw that coming. And I'm sure people will see this coming because it's definitely the winner is not Patricia Arquette. For me, this actress has been admired by us for some time now, but I think this is like a first performance where here we go. She's ready to move on from other roles and past, and that's Emma Stone in Birdman. She was absolutely amazing in Birdman. A performance that we haven't seen from her in some time. We're mostly used to her light-hearted affair, like in Easy A and Crazy Stupid Love, stuff like that. But this was her first quote-unquote, and I hate to use this term, but I can't think of anything better, but her first grown-up role where I felt, she's ready to tackle some darker, harder, more difficult characters than she has in the past, and she absolutely stood toe-to-toe with Michael Keaton and took him down. It was truly a fantastic performance.
Moving on to Best Supporting Actor, I have J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, Mark Ruffalo in Foxcatcher, Edward Norton in Birdman, Ethan Hawke in Boyhood, and the one difference that I have that are in my than the Academy Awards actually is Alfred Molina in Love is Strange.
Ooh, I like that.
It was a shame that Alfred was not in the movie more. And the movie did kind of more focus on John Lithgow. But I do have a great love for Alfred Molina. I've always appreciated the movies that he does. I always think he's a very underrated actor, but very, very powerful in that movie. And I think everyone, it's very rare. I don't always disagree with the Academy. I am usually, there always is some agreement, and I think that they got this category pretty right, besides one.
And for my nominees, it's pretty much the same as Jake, besides one. I also have Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo, J.K. Simmons, and Ethan Hawke. But I also included Josh Brolin in Inherent Vice, which is a peculiar, odd, funny, fantastic performance by him. But I think we all can agree,
hands down,
the winner in this category is
J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. I don't think anyone doubted it. I think that he won every pretty much award you can for a reason. his performance in this movie is amazing. It really is, and it's a shame that there were so many great performances for Best Actor. Because honestly, I think he should have been nominated for Best Actor, but I feel like because he probably wouldn't win, that he should have been. That's why they put him in the supporting actor category.
Yeah, and I think Whiplash envisioned maybe hopefully having both J.K. and Teller nominated, and they pushed Teller more as a lead actor. But luckily for us, I think if J.K. went into the Best Actor category, it would have been much more difficult for him to win. And we're all happy he did win his Oscar because he was arguably the best part of Whiplash and arguably one of the best performances of the year. He was just fantastic throughout.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next category, screenplay, Best Screenplay of the year.
Okay.
And instead of dividing screenplay into two categories, we combine it into one, and this includes adapted and original for us. What's your nominees, Jake?
Nightcrawler, Dan Gilroy. Sorry, I should reverse that. Richard Linklater for Boyhood. Damien Chazelle for Whiplash. Sorry, I keep turning away from my mic. Sorry if that's annoying to you listeners out there. Graham Moore for The Imitation Game, and Anthony McCartan for The Theory of Everything.
For me, my nominees include Damien Chazelle for Whiplash, Paul Thomas Anderson for Inherent Vice, Graham Moore for The Imitation Game, Alejandro Inarritu for Birdman, and Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler.
And I don't know about you, Louis, but my best screenplay actually went to someone who gave me one of the creepiest movies of the year, and that's Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler. I think it's hard to kind of create such a memorable and haunting character the way he did. A lot of people have compared Louis Bloom to Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver, and I think that's one of the most, biggest compliments you could give a character. And I think that his writing behind Louis Bloom and his moves and his motives are all very, very powerful, giving him this award.
A very powerful screenplay indeed, but I have to give it to Paul Thomas Anderson instead. What he did with Inherent Vice definitely got a lot of people disinterested and even maybe upset. But he did tackle such an ambitious and broad and difficult novel in the first place, and made it into an ambitious film that's very lyrical and very fluid, and it's beautiful. If you sit throughout the picture and see the journey that Joaquin Phoenix character goes on, and listen to the spot-on narration of the film, it's a wonderful artistic experience, and one that Paul Thomas Anderson should be very proud about.
Though I can't necessarily agree, I believe Paul Thomas Anderson is an incredible filmmaker, and just Inherent Vice did not click with me. But I'd recommend any of his other films. But even even Inherent Vice has a lot of great parts. But to me, it just kind of doesn't all come together as well as it should. Louis over here making faces at me because he's a jabroni. Moving on to Best Chemistry, a category, again, that I also think is really, really awesome that we have here. And Best Chemistry is what it is. It's what two people had shared the best chemistry on screen. Doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad chemistry, though technically if you have bad chemistry, it would probably go in Showdown, but two actors who have great chemistry, who work well off each other, can't be ignored. And my nominations for the Best Chemistry are Patricia Arquette and Eller Coltrane in Boyhood. To actually recreate motherhood is quite special and powerful, and I cannot ignore that incredible chemistry that they had. Jake Gyllenhaal and Rene Russo and Nightcrawler, I'm sorry. Two people who have a very odd relationship, but they work well off of each other. It's a relationship that I didn't really notice until I thought about it, how hard it is to describe. But I mean, it's one that's very, very memorable and quite just a very bad relationship. I without even getting much into it, it's just not a healthy relationship in any term. But their chemistry together is phenomenal. Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. Again, the mentor, protege. And their need to one's need for approval as much as there is much disdain in one direction. It's very, very powerful. Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, and Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything. Louis, who are your nominees for best chemistry?
My nominees include Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley in The Imitation Game, J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller in Whiplash, Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones in Theory of Everything, Jaden Liberhier and Bill Murray in St. Vincent. And I love to tell the story, and I think this should be a prize on itself. But they became real friends in real life. And then when Jaden got cast in Cameron Crowe's film that was filming in Hawaii, he called Bill Murray and said, "Please join it." And Bill Murray joined it because of the kid. Nothing beats that. And the last nominee include a trio of fantastic actors, and that's Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo in Foxcatcher.
That was actually a really good nominee. I didn't even think about doing all three of them. The winner for best chemistry for me is, I think, two actors who are able to tell, I think, one of the greatest love stories of our generation, and one of the greatest love stories I think I've ever seen portrayed on cinema, and that is Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, but let's argue for the fun of it. For me, I have to go with the group of Foxcatcher, just because. Wow. The dynamics in that film, the coldness, the harshness, the reality that every move they make, it's so uncomfortable and so odd and strange and yet revealing of each characters, that they all have different chemistry with one on itself. Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo were great, but different from what chemistry lied between Steve Carell and Channing Tatum, and vice versa. It's a great group of actors working together to create a tragic, cold story.
Again, I think that's a really, really great point. Their chemistry all works in many different ways, one way to another, and vice versa. Yeah. But to me, like I said, to tell the greatest love story, or one of the greatest love stories I've ever seen, and to really show that love that isn't just marriage or high school sweetheart. I mean, it goes beyond those things, just to really love another human being and care for them. I mean, it's so beautifully portrayed in this movie that it affected me greatly, and just absolutely phenomenal. So now, a more traditional categories of Best Actor and Best Actress. My nominees for Best Actor is Jake Gyllenhaal for Nightcrawler, Steve Carell for Foxcatcher, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Imitation Game, Michael Keaton for Birdman, and Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything.
And let me interject and say I have exactly the same list of nominees.
And I don't know if it's going to be the same for him, but for Best Actor, again, I don't think that it's arguable by any sense. He deserved the awards then, he deserves the award now, and that's Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything. Absolutely phenomenal. That performance is one in a lifetime. I know that he is taking on another challenging role of playing a transgendered character, but I cannot see him doing a performance as amazing, even though I hope he does. Absolutely amazing by able to actually recreate that person. Even Stephen Hawking himself said, at times while I was watching the movie, I thought it was me. And if that's not the greatest compliment to an actor, I don't know what is.
It's hard to argue that, Jake. But again, I'm slightly different. And for me, the best actor has to be Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. It's a slimy, transformative, creepy performance, and it's one that really, like you mentioned before, really, really, truly stays with you long after you leave the theater. It just seeps into your mind, and to see Jake Gyllenhaal become a heartless, ruthless, ambitious kid that can make a living that's not too honest but still get the job done. It's just so appropriate for today's times, and it's a truly a remarkable performance from Jake.
I think that it's the slightest difference between those two, and
completely different performances too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it is very slim to none. Because that was, if Theory of Everything was, I mean, it's easy. You put you put Jake Gyllenhaal against the other three category. The other three, I mean, it's a hands down win, but Eddie Redmayne really moved me. So, Best Actress, Louis, what are your nominees?
My nominees include Reese Witherspoon for Wild, Amy Adams in Big Eyes, Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, Rosamund Pike, and Julianne Moore.
I also have. Wait, did you say Felicity Jones? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
Okay, I have all four of those. Felicity Jones, Theory of Everything, Rosamund Pike and Gone Girl, Reese Witherspoon for Wild, and Julianne Moore for Still Alice. However, my last one is a performance that not many people noticed, but I thought that it was very powerful, and it really did hit home, and that's Hilary Swank for The Homesman.
That's a good one.
Louis, who won Best Actress in your category?
Like what you said about Eddie Redmayne, I have to say about this actress. She won it then, she's going to win it now, and she will continue to win. It's Julianne Moore in Still Alice. Her performance is truly, truly remarkable. It's very engaging, very emotional, very powerful, and it's stripped down. It's her at her rawest and most vulnerable we've seen in a long, long time. And it reminds you of yourself, even if you don't struggle with disease, you could put yourself or put a family member in her shoes, in her performance, and see the truth behind it. It's one for the ages by far.
As great as that performance was, and as we mentioned before, a very emotional performance at best, I think there was something phenomenal about actress Felicity Jones' performance in Theory of Everything. As I mentioned, those two told one of the greatest love stories of our time. And the fact that she was able to compete with Eddie Redmayne's performance and be as equally as powerful and as screen dominant as he was, I think is undeniably amazing and absolutely phenomenal. My Best Actress goes to Felicity Jones. Getting down to the nitty-gritty.
3 left.
3 left. And we're going to do Best Director first. And a category that I think also won't be super different from the Academy Awards, but let's just see. My nominations are Richard Linklater for Boyhood, Alejandro Inarritu for Birdman, Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler, Ava DuVernay for Selma, and Jennifer Kent for The Babadook.
Babadook strikes again.
A lot of people ask me, why of all these movies? Because mind you, they haven't seen The Babadook, because Babadook's not only one of the greatest directed horror films, again because it does so much. It is her first movie.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's a first low budget movie, and that to me speaks volumes of her talent. And she deserves this award because she did make, honestly, like I said, one of the best horror films I've seen. If not of all time, one of. Absolutely amazing. The best I've seen all year. This was a tough one. This is one that I honestly, this was one that kind of kept me up saying, I don't know, it could go either way. So I'm interested to hear what Louis' nominees are.
For me, my nominees are Alejandro Inarritu for Birdman, Richard Linklater for Boyhood, Paul Thomas Anderson for Inherent Vice, Damien Chazelle for Whiplash, and Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler. And again, this is also a category that gave me some trouble because I could have gone in so many different areas. Each one did a remarkable job, obviously, but in the end, I think there was one that was just hard to beat. It just had too many things working for him, and that's Alejandro Inarritu. I gotta give the man credit. The vision that he created for Birdman and what he did, how he crafted it, the insanity that happens throughout that movie, that's all him. And it was a high energy picture from start to end, and he did a remarkable job making controlled chaos.
My winner, has to go to someone I think really deserves it for what he created, for what he was able to actually make. Unfortunately, neither woman won my category. But mine goes to someone I believe really deserved it at this year's Academy Award, and that's Richard Linklater for Boyhood, for creating that incredible, powerful movie about growing up again and the emotions that it put me through. And I can't imagine directing a movie for that long and being so consistent and telling such a huge story. I can't ignore that, and that's why Richard Linklater deserves my Best Director category.
I saw that coming, actually.
Did you? That was a real up in the air one, though.
Yeah, like to me, it was between him or Ava for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a feeling how this podcast was going and how things are turning out. I had a feeling he was going to win. But you know what? Just watch School of Rock instead.
School of Rock's a joke.
No, it's directed by Richard Linklater. Thank you very much. Moving on.
I don't like School of Rock, though.
I love School of Rock.
But have you seen any of the Sunrise movies? Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, After Sunrise, whatever they are?
No, but I know our dear friend Connor loved those films. And he always mentioned it to me. And he also loves School of Rock, too. But I would definitely check that out. But moving on to the next category.
Richard Linklater deserved it.
Yeah, 12 years of his life. It's very ambitious, and he had a very distinct style in it, no doubt.
That's what I'm saying.
Moving on. Finally, let's move on to the best moment in film.
Yes, the best moment. The moment that sums up what we feel is the best picture, or not best picture, but the best moment in film.
The best moment in film.
Yes.
And let me go first, I guess. For me, the nominees include the helicopter scene in Foxcatcher. And if you need to watch one scene it doesn't give away too much, but gives away just enough, I say watch that scene, because you finally see what type of relationship we're dealing with and how high DuPont views himself. It's funny, it's scary, it's just a great scene. Moving on, another scene that I could have picked multiple scenes within this film of Nightcrawler, but I would have to say one of the many negotiation scenes that involve Louis Bloom would be the first one involving the dinner date with him and Rene Russo's character. We finally hear Louis Bloom's full intention, and it's so creepy and so awkward, and it comes out of nowhere. It's just great, and God bless him. He's very determined, and he gets what he wants. Another scene of mine that I dearly loved, and it came early in the year, and that is from Darren Aronofsky's Noah, and that is the creation of the universe and man. The montage that he puts together, telling the story of how Earth got started, was just brilliant, and it's very beautifully well crafted. You remember that scene?
Oh yeah, easily.
Oh, I thought you gave me a look like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't remember that. But you do, right? You loved it too.
I did.
Yeah,
I actually did love that movie.
You scared me for a second.
I honestly forgot it, though.
But it's a great scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was giving the face just for the hell of it, though.
Okay, you scared me for a second. Like, there is a scene like that in Noah. The other nominees include the drum solo finale in Whiplash, and believe it or not, Boyhood sneaks in with a nomination here. And arguably the best part of Boyhood was when Ethan Hawke discusses the Beatles. And I'm a big Beatles fan, and he captured the spirit of the Beatles and the solo careers perfectly.
My best moments. Similar to Louis, Rene Russo and Jake Gyllenhaal in the dinner negotiation scene.
Great scene.
You want to learn about a character, that scene does it. Amazingly, by the way. One that might be different, but I think also had a lot of emotion in it, and a great moment, if that's the best way I could put it. It's the interview with Ben Affleck in Gone Girl, and the communication between two people that aren't even in the same room, and she's just watching him, and she just discovers and knows everything that he's saying to her I mean, I absolutely loved that scene. I thought it was one of the best scenes, and obviously the best scenes of the movie of the year. The march in Selma, the marches that take place in the movie Selma that are very emotional and very painful and frantic and tense. Able to recreate something like that and make you feel like you're actually a part of it is really powerful. No, the scene that I mentioned earlier from Theory of Everything, when he tries to push her away, Jane Hawking, and Jane Hawking refuses. And then also the drum solo from Whiplash at the very, very end. Yeah, wow. Louis, what is your winner for best moment?
My winner, and I'm going out on a limb and maybe saying it could be your best winner, and that is the drum finale solo at the end of Whiplash. It's just, you know what? Honestly, the film was great, but if you just take that clip and they just made that clip could stand on its own. That's how great that clip is. It's an amazing up and down. You're full of emotion. And you want him to succeed, but when Fletcher just pulls the rug from out of him, and you're like, "Oh no, it's done." But then he comes back fighting and proves what his true worth is. It's truly an amazing sequence. It's well edited, phenomenally acted. It's just well put together, and it makes you get so pumped up, full of adrenaline. This is why we go to the movies, for scenes like that.
My winner for best moment is, in fact, the drum solo scene at the very end of Whiplash. It is one of the most exhilarating, climactic endings I think I've ever seen on film. It is one of the most satisfying. There's one look that J.K. Simmons gives to Miles Teller, and it is one of the most satisfying looks in because this whole movie, he is reaching for this man's approval, and when we finally get it, it pays off so strongly. And it's just so exhilarating. No words are being shared. I mean, very little words are being shared. And it's just communication. And we understand everything that is happening. And close up on the eyes between the two. And just that understanding and that connection and their chemistry just totally blows out. As close as this was, I mean, literally neck to neck, half a millicentimeter apart from that just scene in Theory of Everything. This scene had my heart pounding and just a flood of emotions. The greatest moment of the movies in 2014.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
Wow. And finally, which might just confuse the hell out of everybody, the best pictures of 2014. Louis, what are your nominations?
My nominees are Birdman, Foxcatcher, Gone Girl, Imitation Game, Inherent Vice, Nightcrawler, Noah, Theory of Everything, Top 5, and Whiplash.
My nominees are How to Train Your Dragon 2, Foxcatcher, Gone Girl, Theory of Everything, The Babadook, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Whiplash, Selma, Boyhood, and Nightcrawler. I think so for everyone that doesn't know, this is my top 10 films of all time. It's just not in order, obviously.
Of all time.
Well, not of all time. Thank you.
Of all time.
Of all time. Of all time. Of the whole year.
He must be losing his mind.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that all these movies came out in the same year. They were all so amazing, all equally phenomenal. I can't even explain to you how powerful these movies were. I mean, wow, seriously. Even though some of them I didn't review on the website, they all would have gotten 4 out of 4 stars, and that's very rare. That's 10 movies would get that award, or that prestigious award on our website. Louis, tell the people who won Best Picture in 2014 for you. What was the best movie of the year?
the best movie of the year is one that we talked a lot about throughout the year, and it's one that kept coming up in conversations just randomly. Oh, you have to check this out. Oh, this I remember this, and that. It's one that stayed with me. It's one that's appropriate in today's age. It's a rags to riches story, if you will, but in a 21st millennial sense. You don't have to make an honest living anymore. You just have to make a living. And as Lewis Bloom would say, I want to buy the ticket to the lotto, but I have to make the money first. And that's Nightcrawler. To me, that was the best film of 2014. It created such a unique experience and a unique environment in which we saw a predator of the night hunt his victims and succeeded throughout the food chain. It's just a great retelling of the rags to riches story in a modern crime film sense.
The best picture of the year 2014 in my category is Nightcrawler. It is very rare that you'll get a movie that embeds itself in your head and you can't stop thinking about. I'm looking at over my awards, and it didn't win many. They were all really close.
But it just won enough.
In different elements, they are, some of them, his performance, the writing, the direction, though all these elements are great but didn't win the awards, when you combine them all, it's when you combine them all that you make the greatest movie I've seen all year. It's, it's typical for a cooking example. Ingredients can be great, but when you put them together in the right form and the right timing, it can make the greatest movie you've ever had. And as far as this year goes, I think Nightcrawler really exemplified that. I mean, it was terrifying. It was funny. At times, it was so intriguing. Like you could hear a pin drop in the theater. Manipulating. I mean, it had all the greatest elements of all these other movies, and just was able to embed them all in one. And the character of Lewis Bloom, I think, is one of the greatest characters that we've been given in cinema in quite a long time. And I think Louis said a lot of great things that are able to kind of help someone understand why Nightcrawler is so powerful. But I think that it is the character of Lewis Bloom that really, really makes this movie that great. But it's the understanding and the mindset that will keep you talking when you leave the theater and makes it a movie that is constantly on your mind. So, incredible.
It is incredible, and it marks the first time in the history of Chasing Cinema that we agreed on a Best Picture.
Yeah, it's true. And that was that's pretty powerful, because Louis and I don't agree often. I did a small tally, and the most awards for my choice awards, though, goes to The Theory of Everything with 6, which beat out Whiplash for 4.
Wow. See, I was pretty democratic in my awards. Nightcrawler got 3, Birdman got 3, Inherent Vice got 3, Stay Alive got 2, Foxcatcher got 2. I tried to.
Nightcrawler only got 2.
And Whiplash and Whiplash got 3 as well for me. So it was just
very even, very democratic,
and it's an even year.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So that is going to wrap up for the 2015 Chasing Cinema Choice Awards, where Louis and I gave our own awards. Nightcrawler taking home Best Picture what it deserves. Something Louis and I have been dying to say for a very long time, and glad we were able to finally say it. But that's going to wrap it up for this week. Make sure to tune in next week, as I'm going to have guest Corey Taylor from Corey Taylor Talks On to talk about her upcoming movie and her experience at the Academy Awards red carpet next week. She's going to be on, and then I'm going to do a quick review of Chappie and Unfinished Business. And also, for all my teenage fans out there, if you do know who Corey Taylor Talks is, she's really, really big here in Vegas. I'm sure a lot of you know her. She has a huge following, puts our following to shame, so I'm hoping some of you guys have jumped ship. But if not, make sure to go check her out. Again, that's Corey Taylor Talks, Corey Taylor Talks, Taylor Talks. You can find her on all online. Just Google her name. She's all on Facebook and all that stuff. I will actually be a guest on her show this Thursday to tune in, or I believe it's at 6 o'clock. But this Thursday evening, make sure to tune in, find all that stuff about it. She'll be on next week to talk. I can't wait. So go check out Corey Taylor Talks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening to our Choice Awards. I know it was a quite long episode, but that's okay. I hope it was worth it. What else do I have to say? Oh, of course. Go read our reviews of all these movies at ChasingCinema.com and watch our video reviews at YouTube.com/ChasingCinema. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/ChasingCinema. Follow us on Twitter at ChasingCinema. And, of course, I'm your host, Jacob Toronto, and I'm joined by my loyal, faithful co-host / best friend,
Louis Corzolo.
And please continue chasing cinema.